I've come to notice that some people would rather be hurt than be alone. I'm not sure where exactly this stems from. I don't know exactly why this is the case. I have ideas, but I don't know exactly why this is the case. But it is true. A lot of people would rather be hurt, disrespected, neglected, belittled than be alone. Now, in confrontation of this matter, you're going to have to ask yourself a few questions. One of the questions that you're going to have to ask yourself is, what is most important to me? What is most valuable to me? What is it that I want with my life? That's one question you're going to have to ask. Another question is, what am I willing to tolerate? Right? Because sometimes you have to give and take. In order to get something, you got to take something else. Right? So you need to know what you're willing to tolerate. Now, human beings are social creatures. We desire to have a community. We desire to be seen, to be loved, to be known, to be understood. These things are natural, right? So it makes sense why a lot of people don't want to be alone. It makes sense why we're averse to being alone. We don't want to exist in solitude. We want to be in a community. It makes sense, right? A lot of people join teams not because of the sport. We join teams because of the community. We join teams because of the teams, not the sport necessarily. And it's understood, right? Because life is a game, and you have to have different players for it to be fun. If it's just a landscape, a barren landscape, it doesn't make sense. Existence doesn't make sense, right? One of the main drivers for existence is the desire to be needed, the desire to be wanted, the desire to be desired, right? So it makes sense why we don't like being alone, but I think it's counterproductive and stupid, frankly, to prefer being hurt over being alone. Too much of anything in life is not good, right? You cannot always be with people. And I know your rebuttal is going to be, well, I'm not always with people, but I get so lonely sometimes. If the people you hang out with, if the friend group that you engage with, right, if that person you think you like makes you feel uncomfortable on a consistent basis, or disrespects you on a consistent basis, or hurts you on a consistent basis, if the experience of being with certain people cause a net damage to your emotional and mental stability, then you're gonna have to call quits. You're gonna have to step back for your own good. For your own good. Many people would rather be hurt than be alone. As if being alone is some sort of net negative. As if being alone is the worst thing in the world. Sometimes you're gonna have to ride alone. Sometimes you're gonna have to ride alone. You were born alone, and you will die alone. And whether or not you're ready to admit that, it's true, you came into this world alone. You weren't born with someone. And even if you're a twin, you still came into the world alone. I don't need to explain that. You did. Right? And the faster you accept that, the easier your life becomes. Because you realize whether I'm with someone or by myself, my idea of myself, my worth, my value, and my life's purpose remains constant. That is where true power and self-control lies. When, regardless of the circumstance that you exist in, regardless of the situation that you are operating in, your view of the world and yourself remains consistent. No one, nothing can change those things. Why do you prefer being hurt over being alone? You do not need to accept certain disrespect. You do not need to accept being belittled. You're making a choice. You are making a choice. The ball is in your court. It's never left your court. The ball is forever in your court. You get to dictate the type of life you want to live. to a great extent. And better yet, you get to choose your friends. Come on. And if there are no good people, you exist alone. If there are no good people, you exist alone. You do not need to assimilate. You do not need, for the sake of companionship, which, I mean, if the companionship is hurtful, then is it even companionship in the first place? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. And I've seen this a lot, right? I've seen this a lot. People get into relationships or into friendships where if you think just for 2 seconds, you close your eyes and you think 1, 2, you realize immediately that it makes no sense. You are wasting your time, essentially. You are wasting your time. But no, I can't stand being alone. I just really want someone to like me. I want someone to understand me. I understand the craving. I get it, bro. I'm a human being. We're all human beings. But it's not worth it. It is not worth it. The pain you will feel afterwards of being seen and then thrown away like a dirty rag is not worth it. The pain of experiencing fake acceptance and quick disregard is not worth it. You'd be better off being alone. And I want you to understand that being alone and being lonely are two different things. Being lonely, I think, most often is a state of mind. You choose to be lonely, right? Sometimes it's necessary to be alone. Sometimes that's imposed on you. You're just alone. But you don't have to be lonely. You have your brain. You have a mind. You can decide. This is true. These things are true, right? You do not need to accept subpar relationships just because you're alone. Accept being alone. You can use that to your advantage. Some of your most creative ideas come when you're alone. Some of the most formidable moments in your life appear when you are alone. Sometimes you get to know yourself best when you're alone. How else will you get to know yourself? The greatest lessons aren't learned in noise. Some of the greatest lessons are learned in silence, in solitude, alone, in loneliness. And I think it's time we value being alone. Because sometimes the people we're chasing after aren't worth our time. That's the truth. That's the truth. And quite frankly, you need to understand this. If someone isn't willing to fight for your attention, their attention is not worth fighting for. Definitely not. And that's not selfish. That's factual. Right? Because we're all human beings. There's no human being better or greater than the next. Well, greater is debatable. But there's no human being better than the next, fundamentally. I truly believe that. And so you need to value your opinion first. You need to value how you feel first. That's most important. Do not hurt yourself simply because you want to be seen, because you want to be understood, because you want to be felt. It's not worth it. And you're cheating yourself. You're lying to yourself. Don't do it. Because the pain you will feel in the long run is not worth it. That's all I came to say. This is Corban Conversations. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Seek on. Seek on. Peace.